Hey guys, so I decided I was gonna start making my YouTube active again. I haven't really done anything with it, and I was kind of just gonna do it more so for my own records. But if anybody watches this, I guess that's cool too. So mainly what I like to do is I like to just hide all my indicators and my drawings on the weekends, and sometimes even during the day, just to kind of get a feel for just the price action of the weekly, the daily, and the 4 hour. So what we actually had here is price kind of is doing this kind of wedging type thing, right? It's not really swinging. It's not really doing anything that's trending. It's just kind of wedging and getting smaller. So, I mean, obviously there'll be a breakout one way or another. It's just not going to stay in here all year or nothing. So, what we have here is we have price sell-off, and it came back up, and this is kind of looking more like a retrace. And then price could possibly come back down to these lows maybe. What I'm seeing here is price actually came in, and we had this... I actually really like candlestick analysis, so I use it a lot. Price came in, and it made this bullish engulfing, and a lot of people, I would imagine at least, probably bought up here into this bullish engulfing. And then as we came, and then I'd imagine their stops would be somewhere in here. So price comes back down, and it starts to do this kind of like 3-bar turnaround. And we took out where the stops would be, and then also the opening of this bar. So that was pretty bearish for me. Price is kind of showing a hint of support here, closing at the daily, but let's not read too much into that. Overall, I don't want to draw on here because it would show my drawings, and I'll show those after, but I'm bearish just from this turnaround right here. This little pop, I think, could be sold off into these lows. So yeah, I'm bearish the euro dollar just off price action. And I mean on the 4 hours more for intra week. If I'm going to be, analyzing during intra week, then I'd obviously notice this pen bar. Pen bar is just something that closes in a bearish scenario. In the lower third, it has a really small body and a longer wick. So price did show us a pen bar, which is usually a sign of reversal, and it was into this resistance. So that's just another sign that on our daily chart we could continue to sell off pretty much. On the dollar Swiss, what we have here is, of course, probably the same thing because they're really correlated. But I mean, it's just kind of wedging, and there's nothing really in here that tells you any kind of direction. It's not like here where we had price went up and then it started to turn, and then we got to sell off, and then price went down and then it started to turn, and then we were kind of looking at possibly buying, but we weren't like in a trend or nothing. This was just kind of a short-term little pop. On the daily, however, we do have some prices wedging. Same thing as Euro USD, obviously they're inverse correlation. But price kind of straight up, and then it started to turn, and it did a little 3-bar turnaround, and now it's doing the same thing. It's turning around again. So if I'm bearish Euro, I'm long. I'm also wanting to be long the dollar Swiss. Price did turn around, take out these. If there were stops in here from this bearish engulfing, it would have took them out, and we could just possibly be retesting this level to come back up into these highs. On the 4 hour, I mean, which is really mainly just for intra week, but it's kind of just showing us this pullback candle. Is what it looks like. So here's price going up. It took out this high, and then it made a higher low, and then it made a higher high. So as long as we don't come back, too far into this range, we're uptrending pretty nicely. I wouldn't really count this as a pin bar, more an indecision doji type thing. There's this internal type structure right here that price just did a little turnaround and then it popped up really nice, and now we're coming back to retest it. So, and I'll show you my drawings once I actually get out the technical analysis on where I look to enter dollar Swiss and AU, because AU and dollar Swiss are majorly on my watch list. So what we have here on Euro Yen is price was kind of selling off, and then it came down and did a bearish engulfing. Price came in, started to test this area, and then it sold off again. So that's pretty bearish. I mean, this bearish engulfing has showed it's got sellers still. So, I mean, these lows definitely we could possibly talk about going towards or even taking out. Yeah, price came down, nice big sell-off. Price did a little turnaround, took out these lows. If there were sellers up here, they safely did not get hit. There's a little, probably double top, I'd imagine. But all these sellers were pretty much just wiped out and waxed. There's a lot of support in here, but that doesn't mean much because we've used it 4 times, so we have to think how many buyers are really still in these lows. So on the 4 hour, what we had here is we had kind of a, and this is mainly just a pullback pretty much is what I think, but price kind of just started selling off. It did this indecision candle, and then it started showing momentum to the upside. But there's a decent wick here, so I mean it's not really anything to take into consideration that it could keep going. This wick tells me it's not very weak, and it probably just sell right off into those lows. And I mean, if we hit these lows, there's probably stops here, so I would imagine these lows could get hit pretty easily. And their stops might drive liquidity down here even. So that's just price action mainly. On the weekly, on Kiwi, we have price did a little bullish engulfing. It's holding at the moment. Price didn't come down and stop anybody out, so this bullish engulfing's holding. So that's pretty bullish, so we could keep going possibly into these highs where this bearish engulfing formed. Price did then did a rally, came back in. Ooh, and I really like this. Kiwi is also a trade I did take actually Friday, just because of this close. It was really nice, and I mean I took it right into the market close, so I am taking quite a bit of risk over the weekend. But I like the risk to reward and everything. Price started to sell off. And then we showed a smaller candle showing that sellers were kind of, not too sure about this sell-off. Price started to wick back up, and then we got this nice candle right here where the body is at least 70 to 80% of this candle. So that shows us pretty strong. Not a lot of sellers in this area, at least. Maybe they're up here, but they're definitely not right here. Another thing, and this is why one of the reasons I entered, but price comes down, starts to turn, and we take out this bearish engulfing, these stops in here. So there's liquidity all up in here. That's probably going to drive price up. And then price creates this bullish engulfing, and now we're testing to see if this bullish engulfing is actually got the buying pressure that was said to be here. If it does it, we'll come and take out these stops, and the liquidity would probably drive price to these lows. But right now I see it as these highs had liquidity, and we took them out, and now I think that these highs and these highs are definitely in the cards, and this bullish engulfing, just that nice little test with this indecision candle right here that says pretty much the market is just not super, it pretty much just consolidated into Friday's close is really what happened. Not a whole lot to read into here. This is just one of the reasons that I did buy into the consolidation. On the weekly, yeah, there's this kind of like buyer's area right here, but it's like mid area. I mean, it's just like there's nothing trending. It's just a consolidation of pinching that just wedging. So price sold off and it popped up, and then there was kind of just this little kind of gradual waterfall back into these lows. And when we came back into these lows, we had price come in and take out these highs and kind of do this little turn right here. This is a higher wick, this is a lower wick, and a higher wick, so this is a turn pretty much. And then, just because it's a turn though, at support, doesn't mean that this can't just, come in and sell off. That's why you have to do the analysis, and it should line up with the price action of the chart. Because sometimes the price action is just it's just a fake out rather, and then the technical analysis doesn't agree pretty much. What we had here is I mean, this is mainly just intraday stuff, so I mean, we don't really need to go over this. This is what I'm going to use for swinging intra-week. On the weekly, we had price do this bullish engulfing. People will probably put their stops here. There's not really a whole lot on the weekly. There's this area up here that possibly, people could look to come in and sell. And it looks like they did, right at these lows, right in here, they did. They sold a little bit. But that's not a whole lot, that's not something to read into just because this is a bullish engulfing and this is a big bearish engulfing. But this area is older than this area. The buyers here are much newer and are pretty much more committed to their positions, and a lot more are in than the people who sold all the way up here. They probably took profits in here and down there. So on the daily, what we had, and Aussie's on my watch list, by the way, or on my pretty much next week I want to trade it list. I start every week with a basket, and then with a basket of 10 pairs that I analyze every Friday. I then come up with my weekly watch list, so my basket, my weekly watch, and my weekly watch is usually 3 or 2. I mean, it could be one pair to 5 or 6 max that I look to actually get involved in on the new week that I analyze on Friday. So on the daily, what we had here is we had this big bearish sell-off. But the thing about this bearish sell-off is there was really no kind of hint that anybody was, there was no reason to sell before here. So it's almost like too obvious. It's a psychological thing. There was no reason other than this one to start selling on. And then price came down and it created this doji pin bar type thing. It's not really a pin bar because it's not a real long wick, but it is a doji. And it did close in the top third with, not a lot of sellers. There's not that many sellers on the day. So price came down. We had this higher wick right here, a lower wick, and then a higher wick. And then price started to buy. And it closed in what looks like possibly the 50 or 60% of this candle. It closed up here, opening down here, just a barely little sell-off, and then back to the highs. And then it sold off into the day, which really all this could mean is that we just consolidated into the week. If this would have been like a Tuesday or something, and we sold off that much, I would be a lot less confident. So price, and it looks like on the 4 hour, it really did just consolidate into the week is all we had here. So yeah, that's the price action that I'm looking at. So then, let's get into the technical analysis. So it's going to look like a lot, because I do a lot of technical analysis, and it's never I never show the full picture, but this is how the full picture actually looks. I come up with two possible scenarios: a buy and a sell. And I look for a buy and a sell on every pair that's in my weekly watch list. And every pair that's in my weekly watch list has a reason to be a buy or a sell, and every pair in the world probably has a reason. But the reasons that I see are in the weekly watch, and they're relevant through the price action and the technical analysis, not one or the other. And if it comes to like a big reversal, then I'll start pulling out COT and news, because when, COT is a reversal tool, when you get to those extremes, then price starts to turn around. And that's how COT was intended to use. I don't use it every week. I only use it at reversal points, and I think that's what mainly the intention behind it was. So what we had here, is I just drew these trend lines just to show myself that price was indeed pinching. From what we know about the price action on the daily, we should know that I favor the downside because of that price, coming down, taking out these lows. And then we had this bearish pen bar, which I'm not super putting a whole lot of weight because it's a 4-hour pen bar. It was into the weekend. It could just be a reason to consolidate. But what I am putting a lot of weight into is this internal structure right here, and then the sell-off. This is just kind of like a fake off. It's just a fake out. People went, oh, it's going to sell, and then they bought here too because they thought it was a double bottom, and then it just kind of popped a little bit, and then it went to new lows. So this is almost like what I call an internal structure is what I call it, but it's like a fake out double bottom type thing. That price just took out the lows. And then what we're having here is we had, this high right here. Price sold off. It created a new low. I mean, it's not like it closed out here or anything. There were buyers that came and took it back up. But then we came up and took out these sellers as well. So we took out the buyers. We took out the sellers. The daily is telling us it's bearish. This trend line, which I don't put a whole lot of weight on, it's not really, trend lines aren't really that important to me. We broke it, and it showed that we broke this wedging formation to the downside. And then we had this bearish pen bar, and I'm leaning more towards the sell coming into the week. If it comes necessary on the 1 hour, where price, were to break below these lows, give us a retest, and then a sell-off, then I would do that too. But if this pin bar looks to hold, and it looks like it might, then I'd be looking to sell this pin bar, and then target these lows, and then even these lows. There's lows here, and then there's even lows down here. So I mean, there's a lot of lows that we could keep going. If we take out these lows, the liquidity might just drive it to these lows. So there's realistically a lot of downside in euro. But let's look at the other option as well. So for us to be bullish again, we need to take out this whole pretty much fib area that tells us that none of these levels held. And then we need to break back up above this trend line, which I don't really care about too much. It's more the fib structure that I'm more worried about. This internal structure definitely needs to be taken out to go in any kind of buy. And then if we hit this 127, it would show us that this high was taken out, and a lot of these highs were taken out. And then we come back in, retest this internal structure on the other side, and I would definitely look to buy it. If we hit this 127, took out all these highs, came back up in here, and we start to retest this internal structure, even up here, I would definitely look to buy. And if I'm going to buy, then I expect a new high. So, I mean, the 168 is going to be where I go. It's going to be above these highs. And that's kind of the plan, Price either sells off, it holds this pen bar, it sells off. It goes on the 1 hour, breaks below these lows, retests, and then it sells off. Or price comes back up in here, hits the 127, comes back into the internal structure, I buy it, and then it goes the other way. So that's kind of what I have, and I'm leaning obviously towards the downside because that's what price action was telling me. Dollar Swiss is actually a level I took straight to the close. It's just a really nice level. Okay, so on the 4 hour, what we have here. And I do most of my technical analysis is the daily, the 4 hour, and the 1 hour. My price action analysis is the weekly, the daily, and the 4 hour. I mean, other than that, I don't use anything a whole lot lower. I don't like to be at the charts that much, just enough to see what's going on. So, what we had here, and obviously, on the dollar Swiss, like I said, even the daily price action, I'm looking bullish because Euro's bearish, and dollar Swiss did that variation where it just kind of popped back up. So, what do we have here? We have price come back up, and we had this same internal structure right here, and I had this whole thing marked off. But, and I'm going to show you why I picked this level in particular to buy. Price did this same kind of structure where it took out it hit the 127, hit the 127, popped back up, hit the 127, and now we're coming back into this 61.8 level. Okay, so we're coming back into the 61.8 level. We have this internal structure, and then also we can even go on the line chart, and there's this close right here that I look to see hold pretty much. Price is gone. It's taken out these sellers before it went down. It's taken out these buyers, and now, I mean, there's a trend line on the 1 hour, but I don't really care about it too much. It's just there. But I mean, this is a buy level for me all day. It's trend line, not trend line. Internal structure. There's a line close here. Price has taken out the sellers. It's taken out the buyers. It's ready to go either way. But I like it a lot more to go to the buy side because of the daily price action, and we took out all the fibs, we hit the 127, and we hit the 61.8. And that's really the whole idea behind this trade, to go to the upside. And you only really need to stop below. I mean, the 78.6 should be sufficient, and I mean, even below these structural lows you can do, but I'm really wanting this to go direct, pretty much right away. If it's going to go, I want it to go within 20 pips. I mean, it says 18, but 20 would be sufficient too. And then we have this fib confluence right here, and if I say, obviously, that the 127's already been hit, we're looking for a higher high. The 168 lines up right there with all those other fibs. And that's a really nice trade to me. And obviously if it starts to break down, hits the 127, hits the internal structure, I'll go the other way with it. It's down to this 127 and then these lows. So there's two ideas behind that. On the Euro Yen, what we have here is we have this trend line just straight riding. And Euro Yen looks very weak to me, this structure. These highs, resistance, are all holding. And if there was any kind of reason, even on the 1 hour, if we broke below these lows and retested, I would expect these lows. Any kind of entry signal at those on a retest would be pretty good. And even on the longer time frame structure, which I'll show you on the daily, we had price come back into the 50, and it held, wicked. And then it broke below, did a three candle turn, broke below, and then we just kind of got weak and just started selling. There's this support, sure, but it's been hit 4 times. It's pretty weak. So, I mean, even you could probably even go down here, and I have these blue lines down here, which I'm sure marks like a weekly area that I'm looking at. But just for just to be in and out within a few days, this area is plenty. And then this area, if it really wants to get after it. If it's not going to go, obviously, and I'm wrong, then my redemption trade, obviously, would be if price were to come back, hit this 127, take out all these fibs, make everything invalidated. Buy here, everything should be invalidated. Come back in, hit the structure where the 61.8 is, even the 78.6 or the 50, and then come back up to this 168 area. On the 1 hour, I mean, this is where the idea would be to start getting in on any kind of failure to the downside. So Kiwi, I bought this, and I moved this trend line because I just kind of wanted to see an idea. but this is where the trend line actually goes. It's right there. In my opinion, that's where it goes. I mean, it doesn't, there's no closes above it, and it actually can go even higher or lower. Price never closed above it. It opened above it, but I don't really care. It never closed above it. Okay, so, and on the daily, we'll just go here and see. Price came back in, and it hit the 61.8, and it did that turn that I talked about with the price action. And the price action is confirming my technical analysis, so that's why I did buy this into Friday's close, even though it was consolidating. So what we had here is we had price sell off, sell off, sell off, sell off, and we had price try to make a new lower low. And it hits the 127, right? So it comes up, hits the 78.6, hits the 127. So we draw our next fib. And then this is the clean. If you got short in here, anywhere in here, you can look, hits the 127, bounces off the 61.8, and this is your trade to take it to the 161.8, where it just nicks it, just barely hits it to the upside. But because of this higher time frame momentum, I think this is a longer time frame turn. Because I think this is a longer time frame turn, I think that this area right here into this open, or into this close, into this open, and even into this high right here, it is support pretty much. And this is a 1 hour reason, so we'll go to the 1 hour. Price held support, sold off heavy, broke through it really fast. Comes in, and this is kind of, to me it looks like a lower momentum pullback where it doesn't quite reach like any of these lower fibs. It just kind of stays right here and sits. And if it's going to sit right there, I obviously expect all, with price action, the higher time frame momentum, all of that noise, to keep going to the upside. And I do use indicators just for, sometimes. And what we have here is the MACD is above our 0. Which means that there's higher time frame momentum, or there's actually on this time frame, there's momentum to the upside. Price came around and then goes back up, cuts above, and now there's higher time frame momentum. Price is retesting our pretty much minimum pullback EMA, which is the 8, and then I have the 21 and the 50. So anywhere in this area, I mean, is pretty much just support. There's a lot of support here. We're in buy territory on the MACD. And I mean, the MACD, you'd be surprised. This thing lasts in good trends on higher time frames. If it's in the sell territory, it lasts for a long time. So this it being up here can last for a very long time if the momentum's good. So yeah, we broke the trend line. We're holding this area. It's a clean support area. And if price comes in and it wants to say, here's the actual trend line, Nick, you're fucking retarded. I don't know if I can cuss on YouTube, but I did, so I guess we'll find out. Then we'd hit the 127 and it'd validate everything I thought before was correct. And then I'd look to get in at this trend line, 61.8 area, and there's this pretty much would be a resistance area at that point, right? Because I mean, this is where we had at one point a support level, so this would be a resistance then. And we'd look to sell off the 61.8, which in case would be the higher time frame 78.6 as well. So there's that area that we could be, watch, and it could even bounce from the 78.6 if we wanted to. I could have just been early, and the higher time frame direction is correct. But I think for the moment, I think we're gonna bounce from here. So I took the long. It's nothing special. It's a 2-to-1, and I mean 2-to-1 is plenty. I mean, going up here, and I'm not gonna take all my targets right here, or all my profits right here. I'm gonna go up here, and then there's up here. It's just managing the position. So yeah. I mean, there's the up scenario, and there's the down scenario, and I'm in this. There's no getting out of this unless it hits my stop, and then I'll go the other way. Dollar yen, I think I'm gonna take off my weekly watch list because I don't like it a whole lot, and it's fine, I guess, but I'm not a huge fan. It's just ranging, in my opinion, and for it to not be ranging, I mean, I almost prefer the trend line to break and then come into the 127, reject this area, the 78.6 area, where it could go higher. Just because I drew it there doesn't mean it can't go higher. I mean, this is all resistance up here. This would all be resistance. And then, come back into the 168, and then even the longer time frame 127. That would be the area that, that would be the more confident setup I have. But there's this really strong, I think this is 107, yeah, 359, which it says right there, obviously. And it's a line chart close. That's what it is. It's a line chart close right here. That's held as support right here, and then, it could double bottom and pop. And it's very possible. I don't know that I'd probably take it if we come down here, hit it again, like Tuesday or Wednesday. That would be probably a good support trade into the highs. Other than that, I mean, it's just like I'd prefer this downward sell, obviously, but I might buy it. It's possible. I don't know yet. Now this is a trade I'm taking 100%. It's just super nice. On the daily, we had this longer time frame fib that we've come down. We're starting to turn here at the 33. Just because we're starting to turn here at the 33, there's no really trend to like measure or go to the downside with. Hope that makes sense. There's just not really anything to break, in my opinion. I mean, you could draw a trend line here, but I don't see why you would. We never came down and made new lows or anything. But yeah, so I'm not super worried about that. We're pretty much, in my opinion, it's only an uptrend. There is no downtrend to speak of. The only thing you could argue to downtrend with is if you went and fibbed this. We hit the 61.8, sure, we sold off, and we even came close to the zero. So we made pretty much a low, no lower low, but just the same low, and it's a double bottom in my opinion. And then price came up, hit the 127, and validated everything you thought here about this short. And then we came back in, hit the 61.8, and now we're popping. So just because we're popping doesn't mean we have to go straight to the 61.8. It's possible. And if there was a reason that, the 1 hour came and then we had a reason to hit the 61.8, we came and retested this on the 1 hour, there was a buy entry, I'd buy it for sure, no question. But the better trade is if we reject this 127 again, and it's looking like it's very possible. Price is just it did this 3-bar reversal, and it showed a pullback, and then it came back into the support, and then it kind of made this lower wick, higher wick, lower wick, and it could keep selling off. And if it sells off into this 0.632, I'm buying. This trend line, I don't really care about it. It's not that important. It's this internal structure. There's a lot of line closes in here. There's this line close, and then on the 1 hour, there's even more. There's a lot of line closes. If price breaks, then obviously I'll go the other way with it. I'll probably look to sell at this line close area too. It's just really strong. If not, then I'll sell before, but I'm not too worried about it. So on the 1 hour, I'll show you all these line closes. There's this line close, this line close, this line close, and this line close. Price holds this resistance, comes in here, buy. No questions. No confirmations, no questions, just buy it. That's what I'm doing. I'm not giving advice. This is not financial advice. This is me just buying it, and there is no financial advice involved in this thing at all, ever. There will never. I'll do a financial disclaimer. I'm sure I'll have to. Price is gonna. I'm gonna buy it right here, and then I'm targeting the 61.8, and then I'll expect a pullback, and then up, and then expect a pullback, and I'm going all the way to this 27. I really like it, and because it only hit the 33, it's a pretty much a weak pullback. We could possibly expect even this 0.672, which is the 61.8. If it goes all the way up here, obviously that's a stupid trade. 11R. That's pretty stupid, and it would not obviously happen in a week, especially on odd of all things. This is pretty much a position. Here is where I'm looking to take most of the position off. This is going to be the main target. Before it's just going to be a smaller profit taking at these highs that we have. Other than that, that's the weekly watch list I'm looking at, and here's my basket that I do watch. It's Euro, Dollar Swiss, Pound, Odd, Kiwi, Dollar Yen, Euro Yen, Pound Yen, Odd Yen, and then I just watch Ripple because I own a bunch of Ripple, as well as Ethereum. And then US oil, I'm actually position trading right now. I'm buying. I think everyone in the world is buying it below $20, but I'm buying it below $20 as well. And then DXY, I don't watch a whole lot. If price is reversing and the DXY confirms price is reversing and there's like kind of caught reasons behind it, then I'll watch the DXY. But other than that, I don't see a reason to. Just trade the chart is what I think. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, have a good day. Have a good week. These are the weekly watch I'm watching. Don't spend too much time on the charts, Try to stay on the higher time frames, and if you want to scalp and be on the lower time frames, then that's fine. But, alright, bye guys.